What's up everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to be talking about the competitive wish list that I have made up for the next chapter in the new season. Now, this is obviously my own opinion. I have some different opinions about some specific things. However, I think a lot of people will be in agreement with me about my sort of opinion. So let's get into it. So I'm going to be focusing on 5 different things. First of all is the movement meta. Second of all is the shotgun meta that I'm going to be talking about. Third of all, map changes. Fourth, competitive integrity things that I want changed. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the movement meta. Now, obviously, launch pads are a massive thing that was added to trios in the past few seasons, and I think launch pads honestly are completely fine in duos because there is a lack of materials that you have in duos. You really want to have some sort of movement so that it is not that random. I feel like trios and squads, the perfect sort of movement is actually no movement, but a lot of people seem to disagree with that because there's a lot of RNG associated to it. You need to be pretty lucky, and you're relying on other people to sort of not be stupid and goof your games. However, in duos, launch pads are perfect because you are running out of mats very quickly, especially in these high tier lobbies where you're looking for surge and everyone's going to be shooting at you. You need to have some sort of movement so that there's an even playing field in terms of mats all across the board. So I think launch pads are perfectly fine in duos. The second thing I think that would be a nice addition in order to reduce RNG in sort of drop spots and splits and stuff would be bouncers. I think bouncers are completely balanced. I don't think there's anything wrong with bouncers. I think the bouncer meta was very interesting because you saw a lot of people play different layers very weirdly and very in a completely different way compared to what we've seen before. High ground retakes with bouncers aren't really that annoying. You're only able to go up 2 to 3 layers at a time, so I think bouncers are very balanced overall, and I would love to see them in duos because there's going to be a lot of creativity there for players and pro players as well. The last thing in terms of movement is obviously shockwaves, and a lot of people are divided about this. Are shockwaves balanced? Do you really want shockwaves in Fortnite? And honestly, I'd say no, I don't think we want shockwaves. I think launch pads, shockwaves, and bouncers would be too much. Shockwaves without launch pads would also be very odd as well. So I don't think either of those things really fit together. I think bouncer, launch pad, those things are perfect. That's all you need for a beautiful balanced competitive meta. So that is it for movement. Secondly, let's talk about shotgun meta. Now, I believe that the current shotgun meta is fine. Obviously, we want to be able to change it up a little bit. That is what Fortnite thrives off. We thrive off of change. We want things to be different. However, I don't think that anything other than pump meta is really the most competitive thing, but you know, there's things to be argued for there. In terms of other shotguns that could be added, combat shotguns, a little bit too slow, I feel like, in duos. I think you want to have shotguns that are relatively quick because mid-game fights, you want them to go quickly, especially with a meta more than likely with a different map. So we're going to have different movement. You know, maybe there's going to be more natural movement on the map. The chance of getting third party is very high, especially with this last season with those slipstreams being added. So you want to have shotguns that sort of fit in with that meta because you want it to be even. If you have no movement on the map, absolutely zero movement, then you can have slow shotguns because then it takes natural movement. Then you want to have fast shotguns because you want to prevent being third partied every single time you're taking a fight. So in terms of shotguns then, combats I don't think really fit that well. Tac shotguns and duos are also a little bit too slow. In terms of pump changes, I honestly, I saw a lot of people arguing about Aussie Antics' opinion about this one, about golden shotguns and one pump shotguns. I feel like one pump shotguns shouldn't really be a thing either. You don't want to completely outskill your opponent and get built up by a one pump. And also having, you know, a similar regularity of shotguns and having all shotguns be pretty much on the same playing field results in drop spots being a lot more even, because then people aren't only going to be going for POIs, they're going to be going for different splits, and then drop spot distribution and loot is going to be a lot more even. So we're going to prevent things like griefing in grand finals that we saw a lot in trios, obviously because there's a lot of loot discrepancy all around the drop spots around the map. In terms of charged shotguns, I think charges in duos, as seen from what I've seen in duo scrims so far in this season, I think they're fine. I think charges make interesting dynamics in trios and duos as well. I love that we had a variety of different metas in trios, right? We had the one player is required to carry a charged shotgun in the trio. I think that's really cool because players are able to be creative then in the roles and the playstyle, and I think that's a really nice addition to the game. We want a little bit of creativity. We don't want to stale meta like that. So adding a charged shotgun or adding some sort of different shotgun that has different sort of values or different sort of damage or has different benefits is nice. And I did mention tax before, and maybe tax do sort of fit into that, because in duos, you want people with a slower shotgun. So for example, a pump is very slow, but attack shotgun then is very quickly. So a Tarper, for example, will be carrying attack shotgun because they'll be able to piece control, shoot at walls and stuff. So maybe that fits in. I'm not too fussed about it as long as the shotgun meta is, you know, decently balanced, so we don't have like one outright best shotgun in the game. In terms of map changes, I think Epic's done a pretty good job in the past few seasons in terms of changing natural movement. I really like the addition of slipstreams. However, they were pretty underpowered compared to their counterparts back in Chapter 1. They did get boosted a little bit because of the shadow bombs that were placed around the map. They made drop spots like Coral Castle and Camp Cod a lot more viable. However, I think that the slipstreams itself could be reworked just a little bit more, but you know, that is up to discussion. I think natural movement like that is great. It means that people are less likely to contest drop spots because they don't want to be third-partied. We saw that, for example, in Sweaty Sands, Video versus Micho. They were, you know, every single time just getting third-partied by Sean VP's trio at the UFO base. So this makes spawn fight dynamics very interesting because you just don't want to be contested, and it makes, you know, the drama between different trios as well very, very interesting, because having natural movement like this, you know, makes third-partying a lot more relevant. So I think that's fine, and obviously the big plus of having drop spots on the edges of the maps being a lot more viable as well. So in terms of terrain, this is something that's not really been spoken about too much, but I think it's very, very important in terms of how the map is played. And from a coach's perspective, this is the biggest thing, right? Like, you want to talk about terrain, you want to have mountains, you want to have hills that allow for natural movement. You don't want to be able to, you don't want to have to build everywhere. You don't want to have to, you know, launch pad every single second or third zone just because there's a fully open plane that you have to walk past. For example, Holly, before the UFO got added, that was one of the hardest rotations for a pro player to make because there's nothing to block you out, right? There's no trees, there's nothing to cover, the hills are very shallow, so you want to have, you know, a decent amount of elevation changes to make natural movement and just like walking rotates a lot more viable. So for terrain, I'm hoping it's very similar. I think the Chapter 1 map was sort of weird in how they dealt with terrain. There was a few big mountains, but a lot of very open plains and fields, which made sort of like dead side rotations and different side of rotations as well a lot less creative. So I think adding some sort of, adding a lot of terrain is very beneficial for competitive Fortnite as well. The one thing I do want to see change though is that the center of the map as it is right now is basically the main focal point of the map, right? We have a massive mountain, and this mountain has been the center of every single season so far in Chapter 2, right? Every single trio goes on top of that mountain for Surge. Every single trio that wants to avoid rotating, they avoid that mountain for early game, etc, etc. And it makes rotations a little bit repetitive, and it makes zone RNG also sort of weird, because if you end up taking those mountains, you get a lucky RNG that you get a lot of Surge. However, if the mountain then centers on you, then you get, you know, zero Surge. There's a lot of RNG associated with those center mountains, and I feel like it makes it a little bit too weird to play in terms of high level Fortnite. So I think I would want ideally for the map to be mountainous, but not have it all central in the middle of the map. Others, we're gonna have basically the exact same map in the same way that you play this exact same map, but you know, with a different skin. So as long as, you know, it's a little bit more spread out, it should make edge drop spots also very interesting, and that should be a lot of fun in terms of that. One of the smaller things, obviously, less orange, please. There's so much orange in the map, my eyes are burning. So please, less orange on the map. Famously, a lot of the changes that we've seen before, season to season, is just more orange. So, you know, maybe pick a different color. Hopefully that, it's a small thing, but, you know, it looks nice. So other than that, in terms of map changes, cars should 100% stay in the game still. I think cars are one of the best additions to Fortnite competitive. It makes rotations a lot more valuable. It makes edge drop spots a lot more viable as well. So adding cars or keeping them in the game is completely fine. The only thing I would want to change a little bit is the metal values of when you pickaxe them, because there's a very big discrepancy around the map and drop spots in terms of metal. So I would love to see the metal changed as well. The fourth thing I want to talk about is competitive integrity, and this is mainly talking about what things I want to see for competitive in this new chapter. So first of all, cash cups. We've made this argument a lot, but cash cups should really have a kill cap. People shouldn't be incentivized to late start. People should be incentivized to drop 50 bombs in a battle royale game. I think there's still a skill in getting 20 kills, but whether or not you find 20 or 30 kills versus finding 50 is completely RNG. You could have the worst players in your lobby, and then the game is super stacked and you get 50 kills, or you could have decent players who know they want to double kill in the first game, and you only get 20 to 30 kills in total for a pro player. So I don't want a cash cup to be decided whether or not someone gets 20 extra points because they happen to be in the worst lobby possible, game number 1, and drop a 50 bomb. So definitely that should be changed just a little bit as well. One of the other things that we saw during DreamHack Cash Cup Extra was that trios were able to switch in custom lobbies that made for a very big drama and snake hitting and certain trios getting, you know, losing out on the chance to play a tournament. I think you should not be able to switch trios in a finals lobby ever. That's just not competitive. You qualify with one team, you play with that team. If your teammate can't play, that's on you. You know, you have to have that responsibility and, you know, keep up with that. So that's pretty unfortunate for those players that can play. But, you know, in order to make it a lot more competitive, you want to make it so that people are playing with the people that they actually qualified with. The other thing as well, I think reboot rounds are a big talking point in the past. Obviously this season they changed up a lot and we had an insane amount of reboot rounds for Grand Royale. I like that Epic is playing with the format and changing things up. However, you know, that is a little bit too much, and the hours per day that people are playing is just too much as well. So obviously, let's keep reboot rounds. I think they're fun, they're a cool little addition and makes it exciting, but reduce them to 3 to 4 games in total to keep that hype, because I feel like during the end of Grand Royale, the hype was just gone, everyone had a headache, and it was just pain for everyone all around. The 2-round cash cups were also announced a few days ago during the hype hour, so I think for the 2-round cash cups, my intuition is having the second round be a custom lobby. Obviously, because we're going to be going to duo FNCS, I would love for there to be more solo tournaments. I think everyone, as much as they hate solos and they talk about hating solos, I think solos are an integral part of Fortnite competitive. It grows storylines, allows people to prove themselves as well because they're not able to get good duos. So I would love for more solo competition. Round 2 of Cash Cups should then be a one lobby solo event. And talking about solos, I think DreamHack Extra should also then be the solo format. However, I'm not even sure if they're going to do another DreamHack Extra, because if we do have 2-round cash cups, then that's sort of, you know, replacing DreamHack Extra. So we'll see about that. But if they do, I would love a big competition for solos once in a while around the year, just to have a little bit of change as well. In terms of other competitive integrity things, I feel like we should be moving on towards dedicated tournament hosting. We saw during All-Stars and Grand Royale, we saw the addition of Discord being added and players having to join Discords for support. I think this is a very big step and is very important for competitive integrity. You want nothing to go wrong. We don't want another situation of Savage, for example, getting reported and banned, Trippin getting reported and banned. We need to have tournament advisors and tournament managers there on site, managing and looking at what's happening in real time, not after it's already happened, to prevent people from, you know, playing a game and not counting the results, for example, which causes heartbreak. It's bad for viewing, it's bad for the drama, you know, there's just no benefit for it, and there's very easy changes to that just by adding a tournament manager to every single tournament that is there, awake, and able to help out the players and start the game manually. Obviously, the timer, for example, during tournaments is a big thing, and I think one really important thing is to make the timers manual. As soon as everyone's there, you see everyone checkmarked. So similar to Apex Legends, for example. In Apex Legends, all these players join the lobby, you can see them all readied up, and you can see who's not readied up. So you want to have that as well, so that you know that, you know, in the biggest competition, for example, FNCS, that everyone's getting in and everyone has a fair chance. I think that's very important. One of the most important things, I feel like, that should be thought about and looked at. The last thing, FNCSs obviously are the biggest tournament per season. I would love to see some sort of LAN integration with FNCSs. I know it is not that realistic right now. However, you know, as COVID slows down, hopefully in the next coming year, I would love to see an FNCS transfer to a final lobby LAN event, so that people have more experience that way and we're able to crown a winner IRL. I think that makes... I think that is the big gap that we're missing in terms of viewership now, and we've seen other big esports do it, like League of Legends. We've seen CSGO do it with the majors as well. I think it is possible. It is the right step, and especially if you want to test it out, I think Europe is the best place to do it, because everyone is basically 2 to 3 hours away from flying into a city in Europe, so that is the most easiest logistically to sort of set up, compared to in North America, for example, where you'd have to fly across the country, etc. So I think this is the easiest way to set it up. The last thing in terms of content, And honestly, I don't mind anything that they add storyline wise. I feel like Fortnite's a fun game. Wise, who really cares? Like, I'm not really too interested in that, but I know that people are. And if they add NPCs or different things like that, you know, doesn't really matter. I'm very, very open to those sort of things. So I think that makes the game interesting. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully there's some things here that you maybe relate to and maybe you haven't thought about for the new season. If there's anything that you disagree with, of course, let me know in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.